I've done videos about the success of KDE's Christmas donation prompt both in 2024 in a single month just below 110,000 euros and 2025 just above 160,000. With the way that things have been going in 2026, with a lot of really cool features being added, with 6.7 looking like an absolutely massive update, I don't expect this to change. If anything, I would be surprised if it doesn't do better. Having this kind of funding allows KDE to continue employing a few developers, funding infrastructure, and trying to make it the best desktop environment we have on Linux. Now, I know there's going to be some debate about which one is the best, and I'm specifically talking about desktop environments. Yes, I know there's a lot of really cool window managers out there as well. Yes, I am aware of that. And now, in addition to this funding, we have what some mainstream tech outlets have been reporting in a technically correct way, but kind of a bit confusing. Germany cut Steam Deck desktop devs a $1.5 million check. They declare an end to insecure, spyware-riddled software imposed by the likes of Microsoft. What this right here means is KDE. However, Steam Deck is much better for SEO. Also, Germany is, again, technically correct, but is probably just being used for better SEO as opposed to specifically where it's from, and that is the Sovereign Tech Agency's Sovereign Tech Fund. Also, for some reason, nobody can seem to report the number. I've seen 5 different numbers reported in a bunch of different currencies. The number is 1,285,200 euros. But I guess converting it into dollars and then having it as 1.5 probably just sounds a little bit better again for the SEO. Whilst this is an investment, this is not a donation. This is not a private investment. This isn't private equity or anything else like that. The Sovereign Tech Agency makes use of German public money, German government money, German tax money, if you want to phrase it like that. There is a very important distinction between investment and donation, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But you might recall that this is not the first desktop environment they have invested into. You might recall back in 2023, they gave money to GNOME. 1 million euros. And at least from what I can tell, I've gone through the entire list and I can't find anything else that would disprove this. This investment in KDE seems to be the single largest investment they've ever made into a Linux desktop. Granted, they haven't invested into that many Linux desktops, but also, this is a very large investment and is actually the second largest investment they have made, full stop. Sitting right between the Python package index with 1,056,672 and 77... I don't know what your decimalized currency is called, and Prosimo at 1,436,729. Now, as with prior Sovereign Tech Fund investments, it is an investment, therefore it is earmarked for very specific work. However, a lot of that work is still going to be relevant to you as a regular everyday user. Some of it, less so, but definitely some big stuff. This list was posted over on Mastodon. It has not yet been added onto the details page on the Sovereign Tech Fund website, but it will be here some point into the future. The funds are earmarked for the following tasks. Firstly, improving KDE Plasma and KDE Linux QA infrastructure. This is quality assurance. This is making sure that if a feature is added, the feature works as intended. If something is changed, we don't see any regressions from that change. Basically, making sure that the thing they are shipping actually works the way they think it works. Obviously, distros can still break things, and you can still break things, but the thing that is coming out of the repo should be working as intended. This is just generally a good thing. Improving KDE Plasma's recoverability mechanisms. This can mean a number of different things, but a big part of this is going to be session restoration and things like that. Preferably, you wouldn't need session restoration. Things would just never crash. Software isn't perfect. Things can go wrong. So if things do go wrong, bring it all back. Also, I believe that would allow you to do reboots as well, and come back to a similar session. Implementing factory reset functionality for KDE Linux. So KDE Linux is basically their continuation of KDE Neon. Neon is still around, but KDE Linux is supposed to fix a lot of the problems that Neon has. Neon, I believe, is built off of a Debian base. That means you have this really up-to-date KDE on this really out-of-date set of dependencies, which creates this management nightmare, and it's just been a problem. This was originally built off of Arch. They are moving to various other things. I'm not sure what they've actually settled on, but basically it's like GNOME OS. It is the testing ground to make sure that KDE actually behaves like KDE. And unlike GNOME OS, where it's basically just like a development playground, they want this to eventually be a thing that is sold on hardware. One thing I'm very curious to see is if any of this reset functionality makes its way out onto regular distros, or if it's going to be very tied to the way that KDE Linux works, because this is an immutable system, it's an atomic system, so factory resetting that is considerably easier than something like an Arch Linux, for example. Improving security infrastructure for organizational usage across KDE Plasma. This is sort of your large-scale account deployment, deploying configs, things like that. Stuff you would do in a very corporate, a very office sort of setting. I assume some of this is probably going to be relevant for people who want to go and have the same install across a bunch of their own machines, but for most regular users, this doesn't really seem super relevant. Improving data backup and restore system, something that everybody probably should be doing a lot more of, myself included. Did you know that KBackup exists? I actually didn't before recording this video, before looking at these notes. Yeah, that's a thing. And making that more readily available, more obvious in the system, having that be something which people know is there and is easy to use, generally a good thing. Strengthening configuration management as core desktop infrastructure. Again, another one of those things which is mostly a corporate thing, but if you're the kind of person who likes to maintain the same configs across all of your machines, I'm sure there's going to be something relevant that comes out of this. Improving network shares experience. Now, you might look at this and immediately think to Elijah's experience in Part 2 of the LTT Linux Challenge 2026. Whilst Part 1 may have played a part, there is a timeline in getting things approved. This would have been done weeks and weeks ago. The fact that Elijah also had a problem with this just goes to show that they knew this was a problem, they knew this needed to be worked on, and the money, some of it is going to be allocated to making that a better experience that people know how to use, that is easy to use, and doesn't cause weird, unexpected problems. On to Part 2. Building KDE PIM QA infrastructure and an end-to-end testing for IMAP4 and WebDAV. PIM is personal information management, QA again is quality assurance, IMAP4 is an email protocol, and WebDAV is basically a way to edit files on a remote server. Lots of techie words to basically say better support for cloud infrastructure like Nextcloud. You want to manage your calendars on Nextcloud and various other things like that. Better QA, better infrastructure built around this. Supporting IMAP4 Rev 2. This is a new iteration of IMAP4, supporting WebDAV push notifications. This is a way for a remote server to send you a notification on your local system. Let's say again, you have your Nextcloud, and you have a calendar, and there is some sort of event that is going to happen in 30 minutes. Nextcloud might want to send you a notification saying, hey, this event is almost happening, get ready for the event, go do the event things. This isn't the only way to do this, but this is a way for it to push a notification to your system instead of you constantly polling the server being like, hey, has anything changed? Has anything changed? Has anything changed? Which is obviously a big drain on your battery. Standardizing account configuration. Pretty straightforward. What exactly it implies, I'm not really sure what they're specifically going to change. And improving KDE PIM Suite desktop integration with Flatpak-based delivery. Again, personal information management, and then doing things through Flatpak, because Flatpak is the way that a lot of desktop apps are being distributed. One thing that has slightly disappointed me is when GNOME did it, they allocated some of the money over to the accessibility stack. In KDE's case, that is not being done. Now, technically, some of it would go to that thanks to improving QA infrastructure and other things like that, but nothing is specifically earmarked for accessibility. What I will say, though, is they do already have an accessibility dev employed, so yes, it could certainly be on the list, but it's not the end of the world. Alongside listing out everything on Mastodon, KDE also made a post over on their website. Sovereign Tech Fund invests over 1 million euros in KDE software development. Big Tech's disregard for privacy laws and individuals' personal data has become a matter of national security. As news of willful mismanagement fill the headlines on an almost daily basis, the world is beginning to turn away from expensive and insecure spyware-riddled software imposed by the likes of Microsoft, Google, Meta, Apple, etc. KDE offers the world a better way. For 30, not yet. Hey, you're cutting it a little bit early. In a couple of months, it'll be 30 years. KDE has been providing the free and open source software essential for digital sovereignty in personal, corporate, and public infrastructures, operating systems, desktop environments, document viewers, image and video editors, software development libraries, and much more. As a non-profit, KDE has no shareholders to serve, no quarterly earnings to grow. It would be nice if they did grow, but there is no one forcing it. KDE charges nothing for its software or its licensing. There are no subscriptions, no spying on users, no disclosure or resale of data that users choose to voluntarily share with KDE, and no secret training of AI models with said data. KDE will use Sovereign Tech Fund's investment to push its essential software products to the next level, providing every individual, business, and public administration with the opportunity to regain their privacy, security, and control over their digital sovereignty. We have long invested in desktop technologies for a reason. They are the primary way people access and use digital services in everyday life, says Fiona Krakenberger, which is an absolutely legendary name, technical director at the Sovereign Tech Agency. The desktop holds personal data and mediates nearly every service we depend on, from booking the next medical appointment to education to the way we work. We are investing in KDE because it is one of the two major desktop environments used across Linux and plays a key role in how millions of people experience open technology. Strengthening KDE's testing infrastructure, security infrastructure, and communication frameworks is how we invest in the resilience and reliability of the core digital infrastructure that modern society depends on. They do have this link here to read more about Sovereign Tech Fund's investment in KDE. That links to the page, which has not yet been filled out, so there's actually not more details on that page, but there might be soon. There should be soon. Coming weeks. Being around about a week in, obviously not much has yet been done with the money. Yes, it's being allocated places. Yes, they're probably thinking about employing people, but you can't expect things to change basically overnight. But I have absolutely no doubt, with the course that KDE has been on over this year, over the past couple of years, that this is going to go well. This is going to be used in a way that benefits the people using the environment. Following this, I have seen some people say, my, X amount, my $30, my 20 euros, whatever it happens to be, feels worthless now, or how does my donation manage to compete with that? And I absolutely get it, right? I absolutely get seeing, oh, there is a big investment. How does my small amount ever manage to make any sort of dent? But at the same time, that's how it's always been. You were probably never just going to fund KDE entirely by yourself. I don't know. Maybe you're a lottery winner and want to use your money on something that's actually going to be sensible instead of buying a yacht. But most people, you were going to donate, $5, $10, maybe $100 if you're feeling really generous. You were likely never going to donate what we saw in the prior situations of 160,000 euros. Every little donation matters. They all add together. They're all going to making the environment better. The only way good things happen is if people come together and try to make it better. But what do you think? How do you think the money is going to be used? Do you think it is going to be used well? And are you excited to see where KDE goes? I would love to know. Personally, as I've said before, I'll probably at least temporarily be switching back with 6.7 and just seeing how I vibe with it, following some major changes that actually make it usable for what I want to be doing. Anyway, if you liked the video, go like the video, go subscribe as well, and if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon subscribes Daily Bearer Pay linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and be cool.